Hey guys, and welcome to the Hollywood Dreams podcast. On today's episode, we talk with Chris McCoy, keyboardist for one of the coolest bands out there, Tokyo Motor Fist, as well as the Ted Poley solo band. We had a great chat with him about music, his influences, playing with such legends as Ted and Steve, and also we asked him about his whole band from the 90s, Intuition. So, I hope you like it, and if you do, please share it with your friends, like it, subscribe, and follow us on social media. So, now, without further ado, here's Chris. Rock on! Hey man, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. How are you guys doing?
It's a pleasure having you here, man. We're doing great. Hey Dave,
It's
how
the
are you?
weekend, so yeah, we're doing real good.
Yeah.
Finally.
So it's finally a long weekend as well. A long weekend of rock and roll, I hope. So how you doing? You've been playing with a lot lately, right? With Tokyo Motor Fist.
Yeah, we had quite a summer. I was on the road with Tokyo Motor Fist for a couple of dates in July. We played up in New Jersey at the legendary Dingbats nightclub. And then 2 days later, we were in Philadelphia for the Masquerade Festival at the 2300 Arena
Oh wow.
downtown. Yeah, so that was kind of a big deal. That was the headliner was Steven Adler, and Bisto Blanco was there as well. So quite a lineup, really cool stuff. And Ted was out earlier this summer too. We did a date in South New Jersey at the Landis Theater in Vineland in July as well. So it's been pretty busy. Yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah, Dave and I were just talking about the latest album, and we both agreed that it's a great one.
I
A
love
lot
it.
of a lot of catchy songs, amazing guitar riffs, of course, keyboards as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great album. I definitely dig what Dennis DeYoung did on that record as well for Lions. For the synth solo is amazing on that record. Really cool stuff.
Yeah,
It's
and
awesome.
it's a lot of great musicians. So what was the experience of recording the Talking Motor Face albums like?
Well, I didn't actually play on that record. My name is on that
Oh.
record. I was hired to play live with those guys actually after
Oh,
the
okay.
recording was finished. So it came
Okay.
out in the summer of 2021. Interesting timing though. It came out right before the M3 festival, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know the whole story about what happened with Heaven's Edge, but basically Tokyo Motor Fist got called in to play in place of Heaven's Edge at M3. So that was my first show with the band. It was supposed to be another event in Maryland, and that's actually how I got connected to them because I live in Maryland. But that got canceled due to COVID, and then this opportunity came up in 2021 right after Lions came out. So the timing was really good because I actually was learning the songs on the record right before the festival came. So all good.
Yeah,
Are you
that's yeah. Yeah,
are
go
you going to
ahead,
be
Dave.
recording with them? Are you going to be recording with them in the future?
I hope so. I don't know what the plans are at this point for the third record yet. I do stay pretty tight with Steve and the guys. I talk to Steve on a regular basis, but haven't heard yet what's going on. I'm very hopeful that I get to play on it, though. I love
Yeah,
working
that'd
with
be
those
awesome.
guys. And yeah, it'd be great to work on the next record, definitely.
Cool. Now, what
So,
about
so
go ahead, Santi. We're talking over each other.
I think I was gonna ask the same thing as you, but you're also playing on the Ted Poley band.
Yes.
And so since when did you start playing with him?
So that's an interesting story. The way I got the Ted Poley gig was because of M3. Actually, I had never played with Ted Poley. That was my very first Tokyo Motor Fist show, and that was like the day I met Ted Poley. So I
Oh,
played the show, and I went home. And the next day, I had a text on my phone from his management, and it said, "Send me your contact information. Ted wants to talk to you." I said, "Oh, okay." So I sent my information over, and I got a call from Ted 2 days later. He said, "Hey, I'm looking for a keyboard player. Would you like to join my band?" So, without hesitation, yes, absolutely. So I went up to his house and I kind of auditioned for him a little bit with his guitar player and got the gig. And he actually made me the music director for the band as well. So it's been exciting. It's been a lot of fun to play the Danger material and the solo material. And he's got quite a catalog as well. He's got like 4 or 5 records on his own solo material.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the Smile album. I'm doing a documentary here in Cleveland because I'm in Cleveland, and one of my feature artists is one of my local idols, Joey DePasquale, or Joey D. He was in a band called Fatal Charm, and one of the songs I'm featuring in the movie is a ballad that he wrote called "More Than Goodbye," and Ted covered it on his Smile solo record. So that's pretty cool. That's a cool link.
Yeah, I remember that actually. That's a great record. Great record.
Oh man, yeah, definitely. And everything that he did with Danger is phenomenal too. And how do you feel like being up there, like playing? You said you're playing the Danger stuff. Comparing yourself to Casey Smith, how's that feel?
Well, Casey was one of my heroes in the '80s, and Danger was the band I wanted to be in when I was in my 20s. I thought they were just the band. They came out at a time when a lot of 2 guitar bands were coming out. You had Skid Row, you had Firehouse, which was a 1 guitar band, and then you had of course bands like Winger that did have keyboard players. But really before that, there was kind of a gap in that era after Bon Jovi came out where you had the 5-piece with keyboards and really big keyboard parts. So when Danger hit, to me it was a game changer for me as a keyboard player. And I tell people all the time, when my first Danger record came out, I played that thing every day. It was in my cassette deck, and I couldn't stop playing it. It was amazing. Because every song was great,
Yeah, I mean it's those the 2 first albums. I mean, I like all of them, but 2 first albums are just untouchable. I think that's the peak of melodic metal. I don't know if you guys agree, but I'm sure you do. But
I agree 100%. That third album is good too. And what's cool, what I like obviously with the digital format, they were able to release both versions. So you get the Ted Poley version and you get the Paul Lane version. Both are very good. I love them both. But obviously Ted Poley is the voice of Danger in my eyes.
Paul
Lane has done. Paul's great.
Yeah, there's only one Danger in my book. That's the Ted Poley version. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, Ted. Paul's a great musician. I like him very much. His solo album it's a killer album as well. But definitely Ted's it's a whole different thing.
And I'm 100% cool with Paul Lane doing the Defiance. I'm cool with that. That's cool.
I'm not as familiar with those guys. I know who's in that band, but I'm not familiar with them.
So Chris, this is all recent stuff, but you're not a newcomer to the genre, to the music scene. So you've been playing since the late '80s, early '90s, with a band called Intuition. Is that correct?
That's correct. Well, I got my start with a band in Washington, D.C. in the clubs in the mid to late '80s. There was a band called Misfit, and they were a cover band that used to tour the East Coast. So I started off really in my early 20s, just living out of my suitcase, getting in the van and going on the road every week. And we play everywhere from New Hampshire to Florida. And, had a lot of fun doing that, and got to open for some big names like Warrant. And, over the years, I eventually I parted ways with that group and actually joined Intuition, which was a Baltimore-based band. And through a friend of a friend, I met the singer in that band who was actually Dean Jason, who actually used to play keyboards for a Christian metal band out of LA called Barren Cross. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that name or not. Bigger 80s band.
Yeah,
so that was kind of the foundation of Intuition, was Dean and myself coming out of Misfit. And we had a songwriting partner, my good friend Mike Horseman, who now lives in Florida who wrote a song for that record called Jacqueline, and I think you guys had mentioned in another conversation you remember that tune as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's the.
Yeah, it's a cool album. I've been listening before our conversation. I've been listening to it. I like it a lot. A lot of keyboards, which is really cool for a 1994 album. Yeah, I guess by that time it was a rarity. But I think it's really cool. I'm a huge fan of keyboards on rock albums. So I like it a lot. Would you say the sound you guys were playing in that year conspired against you guys making it bigger than you did?
Yeah, I mean, we were really at the tail end. And thank you, by the way, for the compliment. I really wanted to, on that record, write a record that was keyboard based, that was really a lot more like House of Lords meets Danger Danger. And you probably noticed the cover of that record looks a lot like the first Danger Danger record. That's by design. We really wanted to have that same feel and sound. And I wanted something that was, a little edgier than Danger Danger, but had the same big melodic feel and a lot of keyboards, more like House of Lords kind of feel in the writing. Yeah.
I did catch the Danger Danger sound on that album, even down to the fact that you guys had a song called "Turn It On" as well. But
we did, yeah.
On their debut.
The whole title track of the record, right?
Yep, exactly the same way. I was like, but yeah, no, you can totally tell the influences, but I think that's great. I mean, I love that sound, and you guys, oh God, what was that? Oh, "Heartless." That's like one of my favorite songs on the album. That is a great rocking song. I dig that.
Thank you.
Were you involved with the songwriting process at all with that album?
Yeah, about half the songs on that are my songs. I wrote "Hearts of Fire." I co-wrote "Going Crazy." "Don't Let Me Go" is mine. There's a few others on there that I wrote as well.
Yeah, "Don't Let Me Go" is great.
I think it was about half that record. Awesome. Sorry, what was that?
I said the keyboards in that are awesome.
Oh, thank you very much.
Piano. You actually use a piano in there, right? Not keyboards. It's piano.
Well, that's actually it's a digital sampler, believe it or not.
Wow.
Still using sampler keyboards, but thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate that. It was a fun album to make, and we enjoyed doing it. We did catch the tail end of that genre, though. I think after '94, we had distribution overseas with a label called Mega Rock, and there were a number of bands there, and we had just done a collaboration with a bunch of their bands, and really that was kind of the end of it then. Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains and Soundgarden and all those other bands came floating in, and suddenly there wasn't as much of us around.
Yeah, it was a sad time for us all.
And but I mean, the question I had in my mind is completely gone. No, I was just gonna say, with all these releases, you know how there's a lot of little labels nowadays that are reissuing a lot of albums from back in the day. Have you ever been approached by any of them to reissue the album, or maybe would that be something that interests you, or the rest of the guys in the band?
Not for my band particularly, but it's funny you bring that up. I just finished a studio project with a friend in Philadelphia who had a band in the 80s called Hit the Ground Running. It was Paul Picari. And so he's a great friend of mine. We've done a lot of studio work together. Actually, I played additional keyboard tracks on his re-release. I should call it new release, because some of the songs were re-released and re-recorded, and some of them are new. And the album is called Lost in Translation, and it's out on the Pride and Joy label, which is the smaller label out of Germany. And they just re-released the whole record on compact disc.
That's awesome. I mean, I love that album. It's a great band.
Yeah, good friends of mine, good guys, especially Paul. Paul.
Yeah, I mean, you guys should definitely look into that, into reissuing it out the Innovation record, because I think that album should be heard by more people.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff on
Oh,
there.
well, thank you. I appreciate that. You know, the band has really spread out. We're all over the country now. Our old drummer, Mike Snyder, is in Sacramento working with Skips Music, and I believe he was involved in Frank Hannon's band for a little while as well from Tesla. So he's doing that. Ronnie, our old guitar player, I think he's pretty much retired from music. He's doing audio engineering for bands. And
Okay.
Brian Lake, unfortunately, passed away. He was the guy who played bass on that record. He
Mm.
passed away several years ago. Yeah, but Dean's around. He's in Nashville now, running a really cool, actually a party bus business down there, doing really well. And he's actually been doing some studio work with Dan Huff from Giant. So he's still in the game.
Oh, wow.
I'm looking forward to hearing what comes out of that too. And I know I don't know if he's directly involved, but I know he's worked a little bit with Billy Sheehan. I don't think he's recorded with him, but Billy's been by the studio a couple of times during the work. So good stuff.
Oh,
Yeah,
really,
that's cool. Yeah,
yeah,
and that's
to work with Dan Huff now
yeah.
in Nashville. He's like one of the biggest guys in Nashville now, producing, everybody from Keith Urban to who knows, just everybody.
Yeah, he's incredibly talented. I'd love to see another Giant tour. That would be something else with Dan, of course. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
and that's some amazing keyboard driven albums as well. It's giant albums.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So one question that pops into my mind is, given the huge catalog that Ted has, what's the process of choosing which songs you guys are gonna play each night? Is that difficult,
Well,
or?
it's usually a phone call with Ted and I, and usually it comes down to the format. If we're playing a longer set, we've got to add in more material. Ted's actually added some cover tunes to the set, so it's a little unusual. In fact, on YouTube, there are some videos floating around from the Landis show, and we did a remake of "Shout" by Tears for Fears, and we actually did "Crazy" by Seal the last time we played together.
Oh,
So we occasionally will do that. And the other really interesting one we do as an encore is there was a band called Him many years ago, a really good band, had a song called Poison Girl, and that's another one we do. But yeah, usually it's the Danger Danger hits. We'll do Bang Bang, Naughty Naughty, Don't Walk Away. We do an acoustic version of One Step from Paradise. And we do a lot of
yeah.
really neat things, and we'll mix it up a lot, but usually the format comes down to the length of the set. So, if we're doing a 1 hour headliner, like a Monsters of Rock Cruise is a good example, we'll play for an hour and we'll make the set a little bit longer. We've done shorter sets. When we played with Skid Row and Warrant back in February, we were limited to about 20 minutes. So it was just the Danger Danger hits at that point. But we're trying to expand the catalog a little more and get more of Ted's solo material into the set lists. So he usually likes to keep it mostly Danger Danger. I mean, that's usually what people immediately want to hear. But I'd love to get him, he's got such a great catalog of solo material, so I'd love to get him doing more of that as well. So hopefully we'll see more of that in 2023.
yeah, that would be really cool.
Yeah, and some of the older stuff as well. I mean, he in the early 2000s he had this band called Melodica. I don't know, Dave, if you're familiar with it, but uh,
Yeah.
they had some great AOR songs. I always loved that band, and I think he never really toured with them, or but I don't know, but those are some great songs as well. So I would love to hear him playing some of his older stuff as well. Not only the Danger Danger stuff, which is great as well, of course, but some of his more obscure songs, which I can understand why he doesn't. but but yeah, it will be cool, I guess.
And
At
Ted
least,
always seems to keep himself busy. He's always got something going on, always.
yeah.
He does. You're right. He's out with Fred right now, our guitar player, doing some acoustic shows around the country as well. And so yeah, he stays busy. He does.
So after Intuition, did you play it in any other bands besides the ones you are currently in?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. After Intuition, I went through a bit of a life change. I dropped out of the hard rock scene for a while. I went back to college. I got my 4-year degree after 10 years
Oh, wow.
because I kept dropping out to go on the road. And yeah, I got scared when I started seeing bands like Alice in Chains and Pearl Jam. The writing was on the wall for me. I just thought that's it. So I, went home and went back to school. Met my wife about a year after that and started dating her, and we got married a few years later. And I did play in some smaller local bands. I was actually with a local radio DJ in a little top 40 band for a while in the DC area. And we played a lot of, I guess you'd call them high profile shows. We played like the National Zoo had a big event. We played like New Year's Eve in DC and things like that. But I really didn't do much on the way of melodic rock after that. Intuition was kind of it. It was the end. And then there was a lot of smaller little top 40 covers. And, of course, my wife and I have 2 daughters now. And so when our kids were born, I couldn't get out and tour anymore. I couldn't get out and really play a lot. And ended up, going to work full time, and you know how that goes. Usually you're into a different lifestyle. You're not doing that anymore. But there's kind of been a resurgence, right? My kids are almost grown. My youngest is 18. My oldest is 21, and they're both working, and one will be going off to college. And so I've got a lot more time, and my wife's retired. So the opportunities to work with people like Ted and Steve Brown and Eric Martin and what have you are starting to pop up, and it's easier to say yes, as you get older, I guess. But yeah, it's been good opportunity. Yeah.
How do you feel now? As a fan, how do you feel about this resurgence and seeing younger people taking all this music in and then showing up at the shows and everything? How does that make you feel as being somebody from the inside looking at it from the outside?
It's really different. I got to say, I'm in my 50s now. I never saw this opportunity coming, and to be out there and see that from the other side, it's encouraging. It tells me that, I've heard a lot of people say that the newer music isn't good, but I'm seeing bands come up like Dorothy. They really are good. They're really, and Kick and Valentina and some of these other hard rock bands that are a little bit younger, and they've got the drive and the energy. So, I think, for people to say hair metal and hair rock is gone and it's dead, I don't think that's true at all. I think it's actually going through a bit of a reformation, maybe a renaissance period now where things are coming back to life, and we're starting to see a whole brand new generation of people who love it too. I can tell you when we went to play the show at Penn's Peak, I looked out in the crowd and saw Ted out there shaking hands with people, and there were kids in the crowd with their parents. And I thought, wow, that's great. We're getting it back. The younger generation is starting to see that there's more than just, I think there was a whole period where we had a lot of, the boy bands, and then we had the, the divas and the pop divas, and now this is coming back, and kids are seeing there's more than just the pop divas and that sort of thing. So it's encouraging. It is. It makes me happy to see it coming back around. That's for sure.
Yeah, and it's exciting, like you mentioned, like seeing bands like Crazy Licks or Heat or all these like bands coming from Europe and all over the world. And then you see like Skid Row bringing on Eric Gronwald to take over vocals. There hasn't been, talk about Skid Row for a long time. And now they seem to be kind of getting getting hot again. And that's cool to see, man, because they sound great with Eric singing. And, obviously their cast is great. But to bring somebody younger into the band to kind of give them that spark, I think is pretty cool to see. And I think that shows just how much the youth is going to hopefully maybe go wild again, and maybe we could see this, maybe we could start hearing these songs on the radio. That's what I would like to hear, like to get some of these new songs out there and get people behind these bands, and not only the newer bands coming out, but like the classic bands, or Tokyo Motor Fist, that stuff deserves to be heard too. I mean, it needs to be out there, and I would love to see that, and maybe we can get MTV back, playing music videos again. Who knows?
Oh, I'd love to see that. Absolutely. Well, there's you mentioned Crazy Legs and Heat, and those guys were both on the Monsters of Rock cruise this year. And a lot of the bands that came over from the Scandinavian area, there's one in particular that really stood out with me. They're called Nestor. I don't know if you guys have heard of them or not.
Yeah, definitely.
And they've got a song called 1989 that just encompasses the whole feel of it. And you got to listen to that song if you haven't heard it. It grabs 1989 and puts a big wrapper around it. And you're like, yeah, this is exactly what 1989 was. It's amazing. Even some of the guitar solos sound like they came right off the Whitesnake record. It's incredible. It's just really something good.
Yeah, they released it's just a kick-ass album, and that I think it's Kids in a Ghost Town, the name of the album.
Yeah, Kids in a Ghost Town. That's right.
Yeah,
it's
so good, yeah. And it's not a new band either. I think they've been around since the late '80s, but they released like an album in the early '90s that didn't make a splash, but and now they just released this after 30 years later, which is insane. Yeah.
They're my favorite band right now. I always talk about them every chance I get. I really like them a lot.
Yeah, they also have there's 1989, and what's the name of the other song I like? Let me think. And there's where is it?
Stone Cold Eyes, and She's a Perfect 10, and Tomorrow's a nice ballad. That's
Tomorrow's a good one. Yeah,
they did with Samantha Fox on the record.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
These Days is pretty good. I like that song too.
Which one?
These Days.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
These Days. On the Run. It's also really good.
Yeah, it's a great record. We just name every song.
Well, I guess it's a good. So I'm also following this solo artist. I recently made a post on my Facebook page called Shay Kane. It's like a John Jett meets Lita Ford meets I don't know, I guess Vixen kind of artist. She's just amazing. I mean, she's working with Danny Rexon from Crazy Legs. They released an album last year, and they're releasing a bunch of singles for the upcoming album. I mean, it's so good. It's also heavy on the keyboards, which I love.
Yeah.
So if you haven't checked that out,
just listening to her tonight. That song, "The Things We Do When We're Young in Love." That's a great song.
Dude, that's such a good song. And it captures the '80s in such a good way. It's it has a lot of nuances and little things that remind you. It's not something half-assed by any means. It's such a good song and a great album as well. So Chris, let's get back to you, because we're talking about other guys, but this is about
music now.
Yeah, this should be about you, really. So I want to talk about your influences. What made you want to be a musician? Was there an album or an artist that made you, hey, I want to do that, I want to be that guy?
Yeah, well, there was. Back when I was a kid, so this story I tell everybody is that back when I was a kid, I started out playing piano. I was maybe 5 years old. My parents had two pianos in the house, and my grandmother on my mother's side was a piano teacher in a small town in Iowa, and she taught something like 300 kids. And later in life, I found out she was also back when they had the silent movie houses. Like, people would go to the silent movies, and there'd be this big Wurlitzer organ, and somebody be playing the Wurlitzer organ during the movies, and she was the one who was playing the Wurlitzer organ in the movie theaters, and she also did that in church. I thought that was really cool. And every time we go to her house, like she had a room in her house with 2 pianos and an organ in it. I'd always end up playing the organ. You know, my aunts would end up on the piano and I'd end up on the organ. But the thing that got me really started was, my mom, anyway, she found me in the basement noodling around on the piano, and she got really mad because she said, "You're supposed to take lessons. You're not supposed to just be able to do," I was picking out chords and stuff. I'm like, "What's this do?" And I'm just, experimenting. So long story short, she sent me up the road on my bike to this old lady's house to take piano lessons until, I guess, probably the time I was in about junior high. And come to find out that I played by ear, and I really figured that out at one of my recitals. I was there playing a Beethoven song, and my piano teacher came up at the end and patted me on the back. She said, "You played it perfectly in the wrong key." So the connection to all of that was, you fast forward a few more years to my junior high years, and I hear this song on the radio, and it starts with piano, and it's driving, and then the guitar comes in, and there's a solo, and I'm like, wow, what is that? And there's piano and guitar in the same song. What is that? Well, it was Don't Stop Believin' by Journey. I heard it, and I connected with it immediately, and I ran upstairs, and I started pounding out the chords because I could play by ear, right? I figured this out. And, then a few years later, MTV came out. I said, "Oh, that's it. That's what I want. I want to be that guy on that stage playing the piano with a band." So that's what I want to do. So I ended up doing that in a roundabout way. My formative years, I was also a trombone player, and oddly enough, the play by ear story came back to haunt me. My freshman year of school, I went to Florida State University, and I went in for the music school audition, and I was going to play trombone, and the guy said, "Well, to get into the music school, you got to play piano too." I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "You got to audition." Okay, so I hadn't read music in years. I hadn't read a note off of a sheet. I've been playing by ear. How am I going to do this? So I stood by the door, and the girl who was in the room in front of me auditioning, I just listened to everything she did. And then I went in and sat down and played it the same way she played it. And the guy said, "You're playing by ear." And I said, "How can you tell me?" He said, "Because that's not the sheet of music I have on the piano." So I got caught, but yeah, that's in a roundabout way. That's how I ended up playing. And then, I came home after a year of school, and a buddy of mine was in a band. There was a bunch of high school guys just floating around opening for people in nightclubs, after hours and what have you. And they said, "Our keyboard player just quit. What would you like to do?" And I said, "Oh, I'll play with you guys." And I went out and eventually found my way into this other band that traveled, and that kind of kicked it all off. And that was the start of it. That's how I ended up getting started in all of this stuff in the 80s.
And who was the first big name that you actually maybe went into a studio with or played live with?
Well, we opened up for we opened for a lot of people. I think the first band I was in was a little band called Convicted. They're a little Virginia band, and the first big band we opened for was Dirty Looks.
Wow.
Oh. Wow. Yeah.
And yeah, with Gene Barnett and all of those guys. And then we did a show with a Fender endorsee named Greg Howe, who's out of Philadelphia, and a couple of other big names. And then Misfit opened for Warrant in 1989, and that was the big one because that week on MTV, if you remember Headbangers Ball with Ricky Rackman, he had a countdown, the top 10 heavy metal countdown. So we had landed the show, and we were playing, we were just doing headliners and clubs around DC right around that summer. And Mike told us, I remember this little club up in Frederick, Maryland. He's like, "Hey, Rob was our agent. Rob got us this gig at Shiley Acres, which was this big outdoor venue in West Virginia. Big, 10,000 people easily, right?" And he said, and Warrant, we're opening for Warrant. And it was going to be Warrant, Kingdom Come, and we were going to go on first and play 20 minutes. Oh, that's awesome. So we're excited about this. And I'm kind of following Warrant. And, first album is out, Dirty, Rotten, Filthy, Stinking Rich, watching MTV every day. And then, the week of the show, Heaven comes out, and it goes to number 1. And I said, oh, there's going to be a lot of people at that show. And sure enough, we show up Kingdom Come shows up, and the crazy part was, this is how I remember this day. We had our van, and these guys had their buses, and they all showed up. And we get in there, and the promoter comes up to our van, and I roll the window down. He says, and Mike's with me, and he comes around the passenger side. He says, Mike. I said, yeah. He goes, we got you down for 20 minutes. He says, yeah, I know. He says, got a problem. What's the problem? He said, I'll tell you. Can you play for an hour? Of course we can play for an hour. We have an hour of material. We're going to do all original. And our eyes lit up. We're like, we're going to play for an hour? He said, yeah, Kingdom Come got in a fist fight on their tour bus. They are not playing today. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. So they pulled out, and we played for an hour in front of 10,000 people, and that was the biggest. I'm just blown away. I'm floating around backstage, ran into the guys from Kicks, because they're all from out, Western Maryland, West Virginia area. Yep. I think a couple of guys from Rat's Child were there, and just mind-blowing day, just incredible. That was the first really big show. I've done other nationals too, but that was probably the first really big hard rock show we did.
Do you have any of that captured on video by any chance?
I don't personally. I might have a photograph somewhere, but the thing is, the photo was taken from the front row, so it doesn't have the crowd. I was really hoping to get a crowd shot of that, because that day was
that would be cool.
Phenomenal. That's and that was a big one. I've opened for other nationals. I've played with Michael McDonald from the Doobie Brothers, Milt Lofgren, Loverboy. Oh gosh, obviously Skid Row and Warrant. Who else? Did a nightclub show once where we were the closer. Dave Mustaine was doing like an acoustic set, so I guess you could say Megadeth opened for me. I don't know.
Now, what about you personally going in? Did you get any invites to come into the studio and record on anybody's albums or anything like that? Did you do any session work or anything?
Yeah, actually, I just finished up a track for a guy in Norway named Stian Pion. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. He's got this big collaboration going on right now. There's guys like Bruce Kulick from Kiss, Chris Tristram, who I play with in Ted's band, who also played with Great White, and John Beauvoir, and Ted, obviously, and House of Lords. And then the two guys that are on the track I'm with are Vinny Appice from Black Sabbath and King Cobra and Last in Line, and Rick Fox, who played with Wasp. So pretty exciting stuff.
Wow.
They're mastering the tracks right now. That should be out next year. So I'm really looking forward to what comes of that. Stan, when he hired me to play the track, said, now this one's got a working title called Cowbell. I said, oh, so don't tell anybody, right? He said, yeah. So I don't think you'll see it called Cowbell, but I'll definitely post something on my social media when it comes out, because I'm really excited about that one too. So hopefully more of that, down the road.
Yeah.
Lots
and
of other
hey, you never stop believing. I guess.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Other than that, I'm doing got a couple of theater projects. I do a tribute to the Electric Light Orchestra with a guy who plays guitar in Dope. His name's Virus. I don't know if you've heard of him. Yeah. Dope.
I heard Dope. Yeah.
Virus and I play in that band, and Virus is actually doing shows with Rock of Ages Broadway as well. So he's still doing that, and we do that, and then we've got some other things in the fire that I can't really talk about just yet that are coming next year, some other big projects, but should be a good year. And of course, Ted Poley just signed on to do the Monsters of Rock Cruise 2023, so we'll be doing that again next year in April. That'll be fun. And I believe Nestor's on the bill with us too, so that'll be fun. And actually, I don't know if you guys are Taiketo fans, but Taiketo is going to be on the ship this year too, so that'll be fun.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's awesome, yeah. With Danny as well, Danny Vaughn.
Yep, Danny. It's the original lineup with Greg Smith from Tokyo Motor Fest on bass, and cool. Jed Rylands on keys, who I'm definitely looking forward to meeting. He's such a great keyboard player. Can't wait to meet him.
Yeah, that'd be great. And you're always welcome back to the show when you're ready to announce that big, your big plan there. So that'd be cool.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Chris, we always like to close up with a little top three favorite albums. So I'm gonna put you on the spot and ask you straight up, what would you say are your favorite top three albums all time?
All time, man, that's a tough one. Well, I grew up on lots of different influences too. It wasn't just melodic rock. It was prog rock. It was classical. It was, oh gosh, top three records, man. I'm gonna have to say probably Journey Frontiers.
Yeah, great album.
I would have to say probably Toto 4.
Yeah, yeah, that's classic. Yeah.
Oh, the third one would have to be probably Danger's first record.
Yeah, well, I mean, definitely it's a classic by now, and it deserves to be on top three for sure. I don't. We already did a top 10 favorite albums on the show. So I don't remember. So Danger was my top three, actually. I think, is that right, Dave?
Wow.
Do you remember?
I believe it was somewhere in there. I'm pretty sure it's in my top 10 as well.
Well, yeah, I mean,
and I'm almost positive it was in my top 10.
I mean, it's just one of those albums where every song is good. It's not.
You know what though? They had the right formula for success. By naming they had Naughty Naughty and Bang Bang. If they would have had every song be the same word twice,
like
every
a
song
double,
would have been hit. They would have been good.
So like, never forget, right?
Right, that's right.
So like, don't walk away, don't walk away.
Yeah, don't walk away.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, for me, it'd be probably a top 100 because being a keyboard player, you get different influences. Like I could say for every album I listed, there's a million I'd add to that list. Like the first Asia record was amazing. The first House of Lords record, Most of Jafria, Angel, the first Angel record was amazing. A lot of great stuff, and a lot of Kiss records too, right? We all grew up with that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is hard to pin down three albums out of so much out there,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
We had Mick from the Bullet Boys on a few days ago, and he mentioned how his favorite albums might change every other day.
Yeah, it's about the same here. I'm getting into some new bands like this Chez King you mentioned, and Dorothy, Gifts from the Holy Ghost. That's a really good record too.
Well, I got a recommendation for you, and this goes out to my buddy Steve in Australia. Have you checked out Wicked Smile yet?
No, I haven't, but I have heard the name. Yeah,
dude,
yeah, I gotta
check out Wicked Smile. I think you'll dig them. They're incredible. And Steve is their guitar player. His daughter Cassidy is very good too. She's 19 years old, and she's definitely keeping the torch lit for this music. And definitely two artists you should maybe just go and check out. She's under Cassidy Paris, and then check out Wicked Smile. I mean, it's good stuff.
Definitely will. Yeah, man.
Yeah. So, Chris, it's been a pleasure, man, having you here. I mean, we could talk for hours. Sadly, we can't. But yeah, it's a pleasure. It's been a pleasure having you here, and you're now a friend of the show. So whenever you want to come back, talk about your future projects or whatever you're working on and promote it, you're always welcome.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I would like to give a nod to my promoter, Christina Avila, who has done a wonderful job of keeping my name out there and keeping people apprised of where I'm playing next and getting me into some of these collaborations. The CA Promotions out of Connecticut. She does a wonderful job.
Awesome. Yeah.
Very cool.
Never stop hustling. Okay, so Chris, yeah, thanks for being on the show, man.
Thanks so much, guys. Great talking to you.
You too, man. Take care, buddy.
You too, man. Have a good long weekend. Have a fun weekend.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Alright, folks, sadly that's all the time we have for today, but what an episode, right? Don't forget to hit the follow button on Spotify and share it with your friends. You can also follow us on Instagram at hollywood.dreams.podcast. And rock on!